Let's just jump right into it. Today, we are unpacking something absolutely massive. We are looking directly at a new constitutional framework that is literally re-architecting the nation's police forces. For the longest time, the whole conversation around internal security has just been endless debate. But now we actually have a concrete legal blueprint laid out in these proposed constitutional amendments. So in this explainer, we're going to tear this down and see exactly how this framework proposes to split up, manage, and oversee the incredibly complex job of policing a nation. Here's the roadmap for today's explainer. 1. Two forces, one blueprint. 2. Chain of command explained. 3. The oversight umbrella, which is the MPC. 4. Stopping federal overreach. And finally, 5. Removing the top cops. All right, Section 1. Two forces, one blueprint. This is the very foundation of the reform under the new Section 214 of the Constitution. Okay, so under this new framework, the old single-structure system, it's completely gone, overhauled. Instead, we get two entirely distinct constitutional bodies. But, and this is key, they operate under one national framework. To really wrap your head around how this works, think of it like a dual-engine system on a massive ship. You've got the federal police acting as the main ship engine, right? They're doing the heavy lifting, handling overarching national security, public order, protecting people and property across the whole federation. But then you have the state police, and they're more like a nimble, customized outboard motor. They are specifically designed to navigate the unique, local, internal waters of each individual state. Now, a really important detail here. A state can't just set up a police force overnight. Nope. First, they have to be established by a state law, and crucially, they have to be certified as meeting national minimum standards before a single officer ever hits the streets. Moving on to Section 2, Chain of Command Explained. Let's take a look at the new leadership structure. What's wild about this command architecture is the perfect symmetry between the national and local forces. It is literally a perfect mirror. So on the federal track, you have the Inspector General of Police, the IGP. They hold command over the entire federal police. They're appointed by the president, but it requires confirmation by the National Assembly. Now look over at the state track, same exact setup. The state police is headed by a commissioner of police, the CP, appointed by the state governor, and just like the federal level, they have to be confirmed by the local legislature, the State House of Assembly. It's a system built to ensure that whoever holds the reins, whether it's national or local, is subject to strict democratic checks and balances. Okay, Section 3, the oversight umbrella. It's time to meet the National Police Council. So, if those parallel commands we just talked about are the walls of our blueprint, this restructured National Police Council, well, they're the roof, covering the entire thing. And what is really, really interesting here is the sheer diversity of voices sitting at this table. In the past, oversight bodies might have just been dominated by a handful of central figures. But look at this membership. You've got the chairman, appointed by the president. You've got the attorney general of the federation sitting right there next to the attorneys general of all the individual states. You've got retired commissioners bringing actual field experience. And incredibly, you have civil society integrated right into this constitutional oversight. We're talking representatives from the Labor Congress, the Bar Association, journalists, even traditional rulers. It's a massive, massive integration of federal, state, and civilian oversight all in one room. So what do they actually do with all that diverse brain power? Well, they hold serious power to monitor both types of police. They handle the appointment and discipline of federal police officers just below the IGP. But their reach totally extends to the states too. They're the ones who recommend the top state officers to the governors. They actively supervise activities across both police systems. And honestly, perhaps most importantly, for keeping that dual engine running smoothly, the NPC is the ultimate standard setter. They lay down the absolute minimum standards for training, intelligence gathering, forensics, standards that every single police force in the country is legally bound to meet. Of course, an engine needs fuel, right? So let's pivot to the very practical and sometimes tricky issue of money. Section 216A of this proposed amendment sets up a highly specific constitutional framework for how the federal government can financially support these new local state forces. Let's walk through this sequence because it's actually designed to be totally transparent. Step 1, it all starts with our oversight umbrella. The National Police Council has to officially recommend financial aid or grants for a state. Step 2, the president can't just hand over the cash. Nope. The National Assembly has to review and approve that funding. And Step 3, only after all that are the federal grants legally provided to the state police. So it essentially creates this highly visible, multi-step financial pipeline. No secret handshakes here. All right, Section 4, Stopping Federal Overreach. Let's look at the new constitutional rules.
I mean, it's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If you live in a state that has its own functioning police force, can the federal police just swoop in, push the local cops aside, and take over local operations whenever they feel like it?
The answer, according to Section 214, is a hard, resounding no. Unless very specific exceptions are triggered. Under normal circumstances, the federal police absolutely cannot interfere with a state's internal security affairs. They can only step in if, 1, the state governor explicitly requests their intervention, or 2, if the state police completely collapses, like they suffer an administrative or financial inability to function at all. And crucially, even if one of those happens, any federal intervention still requires the prior approval of the National Police Council. It's a massive constitutional safeguard specifically built to protect local autonomy.
The Constitution actually sets an incredibly high threshold here. Federal forces can only step into, and I'm quoting directly here, contain serious threats where there is a complete breakdown of law and order and the state police is unable to respond. That phrasing makes it crystal clear. The federal force is a backstop for severe, catastrophic crises, definitely not a day-to-day manager of local streets.
Finally, Section 5, Removing the Top Cops. Let's dig into the accountability rules. Look, it's just a reality of governance that power can be abused. So what actually happens if an inspector general at the federal level or a commissioner at the state level commits grave misconduct, fraud, or, simply goes rogue? The blueprint doesn't leave this up to chance at all. It locks the removal process behind some really dense, rigorous legal procedures. Let's break down the procedure for removing an inspector general of the federal police. It is intentionally super difficult. Step 1, the National Police Council has to officially recommend the removal based on very specific grounds, things like grave misconduct or a fraud conviction. Step 2, the president takes that recommendation and initiates the removal. But, and this is a huge but, the president cannot fire the IGP alone. Step 3, it goes to the legislature. The National Assembly must approve the removal with a staggering 2/3 majority. And again, look at that perfect mirror. This brilliantly illustrates the symmetry of the whole new framework. At the local level, if a state commissioner of police needs to be removed, it is the exact same rigorous process. Step 1, MPC recommends it. Step 2, the governor initiates it. Step 3, the State House of Assembly must vote to approve it, and again by a 2/3 majority. The bottom line? Neither the president nor a local governor has unilateral power to just fire their top cop on a whim. The checks are built right in. So we've looked at the dual engines, that beautifully mirrored leadership, the massive oversight umbrella of the NPC, and the strict rules of engagement. This amendment represents a monumental shift away from a single, centralized force toward a highly regulated, parallel system. So I want to leave you with this to think about. As these laws actually move from paper to practice, how will this new constitutional blueprint ultimately reshape the balance of power between local and federal authorities in our daily lives? It's a fascinating question and one we are definitely all going to watch unfold together. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.